Yes, everyone, what's happening? It's Will and Frankie Allen. Frank, please say hello to everyone today.
Hello to everyone.
Nice one. So, hope you're all good. We've got this at-home podcast set up, which is, really, really cool. Be able to put a lot more content out for you all because we stopped doing some podcasts because we were doing them in the studio. It was costing us too much money, and it was a faff to be able to get guests in, and that's really what we wanted to do, didn't we, Frank?
Yeah, it was great when we were doing it in the studio. It was fantastic, but there's nothing better than doing it in your own home, is there? You feel more comfortable. There's just the two of us here. There's no one else, no interruptions, and you feel kind of in control a little bit more. Yeah,
totally. So big thanks to everyone who sends us stars on Facebook. People who don't follow us on Facebook may not know, but we've been trying to get to our star goal. Basically, we get a penny for every star that people send us, and loads of people have been sending us stars to make us be able to buy this podcast equipment. We got about halfway there, and I decided to put the rest of the money to it. So, yeah, big thanks to those people, innit?
Yeah, we've got some real diehard fans who are kind of like sending in stars left, right, and centre. And although, as Will said, at a penny each, I think the word, or I think it's 1 cent.
Yeah, it's less than a penny.
Less than a cent each, but we've just had thousands over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it soon adds up, it's adding up to like hundreds of pounds, so it's great.
Yeah, so if you're watching this in video on YouTube, please do give us a thumb up, get yourself subscribed to the channel, and if you're watching this on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're watching it on, make sure you do give us a little comment on there, let us know what you think. So today, brand new format for the podcast, going to come at you like once, twice a week at least. We put a video out on the YouTube channel, Frank.
Yeah.
The Carlisle vlog 37 from our trip to Carlisle went out last night at 7 p.m. So a lot of people will have seen it, gathering a lot of momentum. You've watched it. What do you think of it?
Well, we've done actually 36. That was the 37th vlog that we've actually done. We've done them all over the UK. And they've all been great. But the Carlisle one seemed to come out particularly well. It was great, very entertaining right from the word go, because on the way up there, Will was taking a piss out of me for driving slow. I said, I've got 3 points. And he said, you're just like Everton. We just kind of gelled, bounced off each other, and it became very funny. And
what's the sketch with you driving slow?
Well, I drive slow because I've got 3 points. I don't want to get any more. And I'm always getting pulled up by the police for some reason. I think it's because of like the gob on me, the face on me. I look like a bit of a crook or whatever it is. I don't look like a flower arranger. So I'm always getting stopped. So I wouldn't like to get stopped and get any more points. And then you're getting a bit nervous then on. You get 6 points, 9 and all that. So I'm trying to keep it down. So I'm trying to keep kind of like within the law. And the law is driving, up to 70 miles an hour on the motorway, so that's why I do 70.
But it has become a bit of a running joke now to anyone listening.
It's a running joke, but people are welcome to take the piss out of me, and you're welcome to go over fucking 70 on the motorway, and you're welcome to get like 12 points and get banned. As long as I'm driving, I don't care what you say.
Yeah, so nice one. So anyone who hasn't watched it yet, get yourself on YouTube, go check it out. It's the vlog that we went to Carlisle on the 15th of November 2019, last year.
Yeah.
Got a backlog on all the videos, so I'm taking my time and editing. One of those go out every Tuesday.
And it was the 37th video that we've done, and it's probably the best one so far.
How many times have you watched it?
I've watched it about 4 times now since last night. It's very entertaining. And what I liked about it, really, it's kind of very authentic. We've tried to capture the atmosphere in clubs that we've played on and clubs that I've played on over the years and that Jimmy Kilbington's played on over the year. But we haven't really been able to do it. Most of it, not saying it's looked orchestrated, but for the first time we had a little bit of real trouble in the club, and it came across what was going on behind the scenes in the dressing room. We felt as though the doorman, should have thrown this guy out. So there's a lot going on, a lot of energy. It nearly went off. There was nearly a fight. There was nearly trouble. Almost, and I think people get fascinated with that, and certainly it created an atmosphere in the crowd which was really like an electric vibe. It was fantastic, and the night went down great. Jimmy went great, I went great. The people that were kicking off at the front, this table of people, they got thrown out, and the crowd was singing, "Get him out, get him out, get him out, going home, going home, going home." It was so funny, very entertaining. I'm not really surprised that the vlog's like taken off the way it has.
Yeah. So, big thanks to everyone who's been watching that. It's at like 5,000 views within 10 hours or something like that. Most watched video out of the last 10 videos by like hundreds of percent, 330% more than usual or something like that. And I think the fascination is the thumbnail on the video is obviously the lad jumping up on stage, the James, who's our support comedian. And it says, he jumped up on stage and people want to watch it and see it and check it out. But let's run back to the start of the vlog. Obviously, the start of the vlog is me taking the piss out of you for driving slow.
Well, let's go right back. When we first got into the car, we're driving down the M58. And anybody that follows us and watches us knows I've got this thing
on Facebook
about Greg's pasties being freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
When we go all over the UK, we're always hungry. When we get to the venues, we always call into the service stations. Most of them have got Greg's. And we just haven't learned our lesson. We're still going into Greg's, still buying pies and pasties, sausage rolls, and the freezing. And all the stick that we've done giving Greg's over the last like couple of years, whatever, they still haven't responded. They still haven't warmed the pasties. Now, this particular day when we were doing Carlisle, I don't know where the fucking hell we got these pasties and sausage rolls from for the journey, but I do remember being in the car and putting this sausage roll in my mouth, and it was like a lemon fucking popsicle. It was just like, and I thought, how can they get away with it? How come there's not like an uprising in the country like Brexit? Or why aren't they like, pushing statues of sausage rolls over? He should be doing something, because it's a fucking disgrace. People want warm food. Anyway, we had a bit of a laugh over that on the way up there about the sausage rolls. But because I was eating and because I was driving, I was doing about 60 miles an hour, and Will thinks it's funny the way I drive.
There's no way
he started picking on me, taking the piss. Well, what was I doing, Will?
I reckon, you've seen the vlogs, you saw how long it took us to get to Cleethorpes and stuff. I reckon you do 50 on the motorway.
I don't do 50 miles an hour. I mean, I've been done. I ended up
Definitely do.
Well, I've been done twice, like November, December last year, going to gigs, got done for speed. And I got one of them, I had to go to a driver awareness course. But because I've been on one, for the second one, I've got 3 fucking points. I mean, I've only got to get stopped another 3 times or go through a red light, a camera, and I'm banned. Then we'd all be fucked, because Will always says he's going to drive to the venues. He can't drive long distance. We went to Cardiff, him and Jimmy Kilbo, the support comedian, in the back of the car. The two of them are vomiting out to the fucking window because they can't travel.
No. I think that was because I had been on the air the night before. But anyway, look, we're heading down to the venue. Spoke to Kilvo on the phone, and Kilvo said, tip for anyone out there, don't leave to a gig late, because he smashed his car keys on the floor and had to get them sellotaped. He was scurrying around. Has that ever happened to you before?
Things like that have happened to me where I've not been able to find the keys. When I was going out, this was kind of like, must have been 91, 92, going to this place in Manchester called Zach's. And Zach's was a fun pub. Anybody can remember the fun pubs? They were fantastic venues. They were a huge room, about 400 to 500 people. And they used to have like a gay DJ, which was a novelty at the time, all dressed up. They'd have dancers on the bar. They'd have strippers. And they'd have a blue comic, which I was the blue comic. Done an awful lot of work in fun pubs all over the UK. This particular night, my keys were okay. But I tell you what happened. You won't believe this. Oh. I've got these dental implants at the moment. And they got my teeth knocked out in a fight about like 15, 20 years ago. So I got these implants, and they cost like 10, 11 grand. And look, they look great. But at the time, I had teeth on a pallet, which were retractable. He could go in and out of my mouth. I used to keep them in a glass by the side of the bed in water so that they didn't go hard, because your teeth could go harder before I got the implants.
What do you mean your teeth go hard?
Well, anybody who's got kind of like a mouthpiece, what do you call it? False teeth in the denture. If you've got 2 teeth at the front and they're on a pallet, they kind of clip. They've got a clip on the side, goes around to your teeth. So, but the most of it's made out of plastic. The stuff that's molded to the inside of your mouth, the roof of your mouth, is plastic. Yeah. So if you leave it out of your mouth for a few hours, if it's not in water, it starts to go very hard and rough just with the atmosphere and because it's not lubricated.
Oh, got you, okay.
So you've got to keep it in water. So this particular night, I'm working on this club called Zach's in Audenshaw in Manchester. And as I say, it's got to be 91, 92. What happened? My mate Big Fred, God rest his soul, who's passed away, a great singer, a good lad. He was coming with me, and he was a big lad. He was 6'4", so some of the rough places I had to do, he was kind of looking after me as well, you know. So we're getting ready to go to this gig, and I think it was you. I'd been with you that day. He was 2 or 18 months, and I'd had my teeth out of my fucking head and in a glass. And the next thing is, it was 7:30. We had to be there for 8:30. I just could not find my teeth.
You know, just in case anyone's listening or watching, they don't realise, how many teeth did you have out? Like
2 at the front were missing and 2 at the side. Yeah. So I couldn't really work without them. Yeah. I would have been like a hillbilly. It would have just been ridiculous, like a carrot cruncher. So I couldn't find the teeth. I think that you moved them. When Will was a kid, he was moving things all the time and hiding things. And this particular day, I couldn't find the 2 teeth. Running around like a lunatic, trying to find the teeth, couldn't find them. In the end, because we were going to miss the gig, I had to go to this place in Manchester, get on stage without any teeth in my fucking head.
Did you do it?
I'd done it, and people were screaming, laughing, taking the piss. And it took quite a while for them to be able to understand me. I was talking like someone who's gummy. Yeah.
Mad that. So, Kilv, he dropped his keys, smashed them on the floor in the petrol station, couldn't get them sorted. The woman duct taped them. He was panicking like mad. But anyway, he ended up getting to the gig. And huge room, wasn't it? You've never worked there before?
It was a big room, and we got there early, so we had something to eat. And it was great. And if you watch the vlog, you'll see it was just before Christmas, November the 15th it was, just a little month before Christmas. So there was a big Christmas tree up there. It was a great atmosphere. There was decorations in the room. The way the room was set out was lovely. Everything was really up for a great night, but it wasn't going to be that great because later on, when the crowd started coming in, I was peeping through the back door, and I said to Jimmy Kilbo, our support comedian, Jimmy, I don't like the look of that table at the front. They looked as though they were going to kick off. Now, don't ask me how, but because I worked on the clubs all my life and I've been in and around trouble, I can sense when there's going to be trouble or when someone's going to kick off. Or I might be wrong sometimes, but more often than not, I'm right. And I said, we'll have to watch that table. And before Jimmy went on, I said to him in the dressing room, be careful. So he was kind of like forewarned and forearmed. And he went on, and to be fair to him, he made mincemeat out of them.
Yeah, I think what usually happens is I'll come on and introduce the show. I'll come on and introduce the show and then say, look, go and get a drink and go sit back down or whatever, just to kind of like get a bit of a gauge of what the crowd is like, so I can kind of report back to the support comedian and to Frank and say, look, this is going on, this is what you need to watch out for, etc. Now, we do a full security briefing before the show. When we go to venues, sometimes we bring security with us, sometimes we use a local firm. I wouldn't say it was anything that was a problem with this local firm with regards to they weren't following instructions correctly. It just sometimes becomes a little bit of a grey area when people don't know whether they're taking the piss or not, don't they?
Well, look, what it is, Will's exactly right, it's a grey area. A lot of the security that are going around the clubs, I've had it for years. Someone's kicking off in the crowd and I'm coming back at them, saying funny things, so quieting them down, but trying to keep it funny. Jimmy Kilbo's doing the same. Thousands of comedians all over the UK doing the same. But the security don't know and find it hard to tell if it's part of the act or it's not part of the act, or when they should intervene and when they shouldn't intervene. Sometimes you can be having a laugh with someone who's heckling you and it can be hilarious.
Yeah.
And the guy's not really kicking off, or he's half kicking off. Like when my video went viral, the original video viral, 2018, it was released and it was recorded in 17. The guy came out of the toilet and he was kicking off at first. Then he changed his mind and he thought it was a laugh. Then he kicked off again a little bit. So I wasn't sure. The crowd in the pub weren't sure if he was kicking off. He wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And the security weren't sure. Nobody's sure. So that makes for like a good vibe, really. But once someone's gone too far, they need throwing out. But it wasn't the security's fault. It's very hard to kind of gauge if someone's kicking off or they're not kicking off.
Yeah, so just to fill you in, we had a security briefing beforehand. You know, they were told no one must approach the stage under any circumstances. However, in fairness to them, Kilvo invited this lad up on stage. So what I'll do is just explain to you exactly what had happened. So I've got up on stage and had a little bit of a laugh with people, and I could tell how boisterous this table was at the front. They just kept shouting out, and it was doing me head in, to be fair. Now, Kilvo got up, and he's quite like, I think he'd done 3 shows back to back the week before, which really, really helped him, didn't it?
He was on form. He was very good.
He was on form. So basically, this, you'll see on the video, these lads, they just kept shouting out, "You're just a load of shit.
You're a load of rubbish," and all that. And where's your mother? And just ridiculous, silly things. Not clever stuff that he could come back with, and you could say, well, you know, I take my hat off to you, mate. That's a clever remark. They were just being horrible, just being obnoxious.
Yeah.
And you could see Jimmy, and Jimmy's a handy lad. You know, he's an ex-boxer, champion boxer. You could see he's getting pissed off. And I thought, Jimmy's going to kind of steal one. Or one of these fellas comes to the stage, he's going to hit him.
Yeah.
And
no,
then,
just to let you know, you were backstage. You didn't watch any of this, did you? So,
I didn't see any of this. I was upstairs.
Yeah.
I didn't really get wind of what was going on. But I knew beforehand that, and I told Jimmy before he went downstairs, I said, Jim, be careful with those lads at the front, because I think they're going to kick off. I just got a feeling the way that they are, the way they're behaving.
So from watching it back, you said to me last night, you called me and said, to be fair, I couldn't have handled it any better myself.
No, he was excellent the way that he kind of handled them. He was very firm with them, but it was still funny. I mean, if you get into confrontation with someone in the crowd or a table of lads who are kicking off, what you don't want to do is lose the crowd where there's a horrible atmosphere, and even if they get thrown out, then you're left with a dead crowd, and you're trying to get them laughing. You can't get them laughing again because of the atmosphere, so it ruins the night. So Jimmy was up on a really difficult task. He had to try and get them quiet, be firm with them, show them that he wasn't scared of them in any way, but also make it funny. And it's a very fine line you've got to walk. It's very difficult. But he done it. You know, he really done it, and he was great. And they kind of quietened down, although Will's going to tell you now, one of them jumped up on stage, which he shouldn't have done.
Yeah, basically, Kilvo, it's a tactic that Frankie uses a lot of the time if somebody's being an absolute pain in the arse, or if you need to win the crowd back from a situation where they might be a little bit like, you know, a little bit like quiet or a little bit losing interest.
Waking the crowd up.
Basically, that's what you call it, waking the crowd up. Basically, he invited the kid up on stage, and he's gone, "Go on, mate, come and shake me hand, as though like he wanted him to feel a part of it. He wanted him to fucking shut up, first of all, but then he wanted to get the crowd on his side. He'd gone to shake his hand and fucked him off, basically, like by pulling his hand away. But then the lad's just tried to be funny, hasn't he?
Well, I mean, when I watched the video, it looks as though he's trying to get a grip of Jimmy. Didn't he put his hands on his ears or something? Or
that's the second time.
Was that the second time?
He basically he did that. He pulled his hand out the way.
Yeah.
And then the lad's gone, like, tried to grab him. And Jay's a big lad. He's like, what, 6'3" or something like that. So he's put his arm around him as though, like, you know, what are you going to do, mate? So the kid walked off back into the crowd, and then he just started laughing, went, "Who wants me to knock this cunt out?" And then everyone went, "Wait." So then the lads ran back up to the stage. And then he went to put his head to his, then grabbed his ears and all the rest of it. And Jay was like, "Fucking hell, mate." He said, "The way he grabbed my ears, I was fuming when he watched it back." He went, "But at the same time, I was proud of the way I handled it, and I didn't rise to it." What do you think?
Well, he didn't rise to it, but everyone's got a breaking point. And what you've got to be careful of, some of these people nowadays, what people don't realise, you're not dealing with people in the crowd who were just drinking and they've had like a pint. Some of them have had a little sniff and they get very aggressive if you've had a line of coke or something.
Yeah.
So they can get on stage and be very aggressive. And I've had it, you know, I've been attacked, I've been filled in, I've been nearly killed on stage, you know, and I'm not the only one. I know other comics, I could name them, but I'm not going, I can name you about 4 or 5 comics who've been attacked on stage.
Yeah.
One of them who's a very good friend of mine, I'll tell you his name, he won't mind, Terry Joyce from the Northeast. He was doing a show in Catterick Barracks.
Yeah.
As he's setting up, before he got introduced, this fella kind of like kicked off in the crowd and said, "I'm going to stab you, I'm going to stab you."
What, before he got introduced?
Before he got introduced. So there's nutters everywhere all over the country, isn't there? You've got to be very careful. So where I draw the line, obviously, if you've got security, you've got to make sure that they're only a few yards away from you in case something does go off. And both yourself more than Jimmy, but Jimmy's a little bit can be a little bit aggressive with the crowd. And some people, if you don't like it, or do you think they're being embarrassed in front of the mates, they'll kick off. I mean, I savage people, and I really don't know how I get away with it, but I've got this way about me, and I do get away with it. But every now and then you'll get someone who does kick off. So what I'm watching for all the time, you can have a laugh with someone, you can push each other when they're on the stage with you, but if someone throws one at you, and it's happened to me a few times, you've really got to be careful and just kind of get out the way and push them away. And what I do sometimes is if someone's approaching the stage and I think they're kicking off, I'll just put my hand out to them to stop them, and I just say, don't come any further. And what I mean by that is if you come any further, I'll just have to hit you before you kind of hit me. I'm not going to be a target, Yeah. So it's fascinating. But when you get tension like that in a club, when there's almost trouble, it creates this kind of energy where everyone's buzzing off it. And anything that you do, everyone's laughing like fuck. Now, when that guy eventually got thrown out, when I came on the stage later on to do my spot, because they were kicking off on me, the crowd was cheering, chanting, going home, going home, going. And it was a fantastic night. But it's kind of like you're walking on a tightrope. I'd rather the crowd are a little bit quiet than get huge explosions of laughter, but possibly a little bit of trouble.
Yeah. So, you're talking about you couldn't have handled that any better yourself. How would you have handled that? Like, he goes to grab the guy's hand, or would you have thought, I'm not going to let that guy try and shake my hand because he's a dickhead?
I would have done basically, and I mean this, I would have done really the same kind of way that James Kilbo approached it. Exactly the same, trying to keep it nice, silly little things like, hey mate, are you drinking? You shouldn't drink on an empty head. Few little things. And I've got my own kind of like, I've got about like 15 or 20 things that I can come out with to try and get people to be quiet, but then to keep it funny. But at the end of the day, if it gets nasty, then I can be nasty. I've got a lot of things that can give them put downs for. They won't get the better of me. If they start, a lot of them shout out, when's the comedian coming on? Then they shout out, you get guys shouting out, where's your mother? Where's your mother? They're just trying to wind you up.
Yeah.
So I always say, where's your mother? And I always say, you come up, I say, where's your mother? And all that. So it gets kind of like very kind of base, and it gets very kind of like guttery, where you're both insulting each other. And if it carries on, that's how you can get trouble. So you try to avoid getting to that stage. But as you say, it's very complicated. And most of the time, the bouncers who are in the club, the doorman, security, they're thinking, is this is great? Is this part of the act? And it's happened many times where fellas have got hold of you, grabbed you, they've got you in a fucking headlock, and the doorman haven't even had a chance to come out. You haven't realised till it's too late.
Yeah, so all in all, it actually worked out quite well. The fellas left in the end, kind of like by their own accord. Sometimes, do you find like, based on the fact of how your brand is in the UK's most feared comedian, you get people just coming to be a pain in the arse?
They don't come to be a pain in the arse initially. They get a little bit excited because they've seen me on the video on the viral, and they go, fucking hell, this fella's nearly fighting here in this club. And they know that, I'm a very working class comic, and that's my audience. Yeah. And they know they'll get real proper lads and girls coming along, people who really don't give a fuck,
Yeah.
And they come along and they kind of, I don't know, I think they get a little bit nervous, and some of them just shout out. They don't even know what they've said.
Just a bit pissed.
Pissed as well, yeah.
Yeah, but a great night overall, and yeah, testament to Jay. Anyone watching this, James Kilvington was our support comedian on it. He was brilliant on that night, really, really good. And we were talking about some other bits. So when you get up on stage, beforehand in the dressing room, which was it was a really nice venue, wasn't it? It
was a lovely venue. The dressing room was lovely. We had a nice meal they provided for us before we went on, and the Shepherd's Inn, Carlisle. If anybody up there knows it, you'll know it. Great venue, and they had Tyson Fury on there the week before, all top liners, so I was in really good company. And I do my best anytime I'm on the stage. I always put 100% into it. But that night as well, I was on form. and Jimmy Kilvo was on phone. We absolutely smashed it. It was great.
Yeah, great night. But we were laughing backstage about, you were talking about this club you'd been on in Middlesbrough and saying the Ironopolis Club, was it called?
Well, look, this is going back like 30 years or something like that, or maybe more than that, 35 years. I was working on this club. An agent gave me this club, and it was called the Ironopolis Club. And we were just talking, funny stories about what goes on behind the scenes. So in those days, it wasn't my kind of crowd, really. People didn't like you being blue in these Labour clubs and British Legions. You had to try and keep it clean because these were all people that were brought up just after the war, and they were kind of like very Victorian with their attitude. So you had to you're walking on eggshells when you were on the stage. It was a fucking nightmare because a lot of the stages were like huge rooms too big. 500 fucking people. And in the Labour clubs, they were like, the stage was like half a mile away from the audience. They wanted you to go on and do 2 45-minute shows, which you just couldn't do. They were horrible people in the clubs at the time, not like today's generation where they're up for a laugh. They were very, very miserable in the 70s and 80s. They really were. So you had to walk out, and sometimes you'd have to go on 7:45. People were still coming in. They hadn't had a drink. They weren't in the mood for comedy. They weren't chilled, and they were just in a horrible mood. And the amount of places I've stood and just told gags, and the sweat's been dripping off me. In the end, your mouth goes dry. Your knees start knocking. You're having a kind of convulsion because it's like being in the desert without water. You get no laughs at all, and you just have to stand there like a prick for an hour, hoping when you come off, they'll pay you.
Yeah.
So this particular night, I went to this place, and I knew straight away, pulled up in a car park, looked up at the size of the fucking club, huge club, and I went, what the fuck's this? I'll never forget the car I had driven all the way from Liverpool. I had this kind of Ford Capri, and any mechanics out there will understand this. I'd had it looked at, but they couldn't find anything wrong with it because the head gasket wasn't gone, but there was a crack in the head. So when you went on a long journey, the water in the engine and the water in the tank, in the radiator, used to boil, and steam would come out everywhere. So it just made it to this Ironopolis Club. And the next thing, as I switched off here, as though the car's going to blow up. Yeah. Boiling fucking water. Fucking hell. So I just had I think I had slippers on for the journey, put my shoes on. I walked in, and I walked into the back room of the club. It was like a lounge area. And there was a fella on with a microphone setting up a singer. I thought, fucking lovely. This is a nice room. There must be about 40 people here. This will be great for me. Yeah. Intimate. And this guy said, oh, no, you're on in the big room. I went, what? So I'm walking down this fucking corridor, huge double doors. I opened the door and I went, no. Huge room where I knew I was going to be like a fly on the stage. So the people started coming at 7:30, people on walking sticks, caps. All the women used to come in. We used to have these pack-a-mac things when it rained, like this plastic thing.
I know exactly what you mean.
Anyway, they'd all come in with these pack-a-mac things, and they'd be shaking the rain off before they sat down. And even if you were on, they just ignore it and they go, brown bitcher for me, Tony. Brown bitcher the badger lager for Eddie. Fucking hell. So I'm in this Ironopolis Club, and I'm in the dressing room. And it was that bad, it had a bad reputation. And on the door, people, other comics and other singers who'd been there before had written comments about the club. And you get a lot of that, you get a lot of clubs that you go to, I used to go to, especially around South Manchester where they're a good crowd. People would write on the door, great crowd here, have a good night, whoever you are, and all this. It really encouraged you. But on this door in the Ironopolis Club, it said, do not go on stage in this club. It's a fucking nightmare. Somebody else had written, I am a comedian. I died on my arse in this club. I feel ill. I will never, ever come back to this fucking shithole. People were writing different things. The whole door was covered. Yeah. But right in the middle, somebody had written, just before it went on, this is not a club. This is not a door. And this was the door that led onto the stage area that you're open to get onto the stage and do your thing. This is not a door. This is a portal to another dimension, which is known as hell.
Was it really that bad?
And I went, you fucking joke. Anyway, it was worse.
Yeah.
So this guy must have been about fucking 80, gets on the stage and he's on the microphone. It was like 8 o'clock. The sun was coming through the fucking windows. Nobody could see me. I'm tiny on the stage compared to where the crowd were. And he goes, I mean, I can't really do a smoggy Hartlepool accent the way he'd do it or whatever it was. But he went, ladies and gentlemen. He went, Billy Peckersniff died on Monday. He was 91. And they're all going, oh, Billy. And someone shouting out, God rest your soul, Billy. So then this prick goes, on Tuesday, we're having his funeral. There will be a coach leaving from here at 8:15 to the cemetery if anybody would like to come along and pay their respects. So then he went, before we bring the artist on, could we have a minute's silence?
Oh, no.
So they're all standing there like that.
Oh, no.
Like dead bodies, look like dead bodies.
Did you know it was just going to go down badly at that
This
point?
bastard didn't even say I was a comedian. He just went, welcome on stage from Liverpool, Frankie Allen. So came out, picked the mic up, fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Like talking to a concrete wall.
Yeah.
Anyway, any Hartlepool fans in? Nothing. Any Sunderland fans, Newcastle fans, anyone in from Scotland, any Scottish people in, started telling jokes, just staring at me like that with this hatred.
Yeah.
So I'm dying. I'm starting to kind of like sweat. I'm looking at the big clock at the back of the wall, on the wall at the back of the room, and I've done about 10 minutes. Anyone who has a bad time on stage knows when you do 5 minutes, if you're not getting any laughs, it can last in your mind. You think you've been on stage for an hour. So I'm watching this fucking clock and I'm watching this fucking thing. I'll never forget this big, huge model, bigger than like a 40-inch TV of this Ironopolis fucking ship, whatever it was, on the back of the room.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I wish it was on that fucking ship. And I was thinking in my mind, daydreaming, what would it be like to be running around that ship instead of being on here? Anyway, I'm halfway, I've done about 15 minutes. And I heard this woman say to her mate, you could hear him in the crowd, why doesn't he walk off? He's rubbish. I'm carrying on. In those days, you used to have an organ player in the clubs and a drummer. And when they were sent on stage, if you were having a bad time, when you see them, you knew then they wanted you to come off.
That was like the time to
So
go, yeah.
that was time to come off because they knew that like you were getting crucified. But they weren't bothered about you getting crucified. But they thought you were rubbish, you see, and they didn't want people complaining to the committee of the club that the club were getting rubbish acts in. So I actually walked off, and the guy who was running the club said to me something about, I was supposed to be picking up whatever it was, 80 quid at the time. And he said, oh no, we've sent your money to your agent. And I said, have you? He said, yeah, you'll get your money. But he was lying. And I had to fucking drive all the way home. Hardly got home.
It's everything.
Like, I think it was in Blackpool the next day, the next afternoon. I had no money. And I left the club and I had to slept in the car park of this fucking Ironopolis without a can of Coke, without anything. I had no money. I was relying on the 80 quid. And the next afternoon I was working.
In the car park,
slept in the car, yeah. And then the next afternoon, woke up about 7 o'clock and I drove over to Blackpool to do a place called Jellies, which was a great place, which was underneath the Blackpool Tower. It was a club, it was great. 2 lads run it and 2 gay lads. It was a fantastic place. And I was on there with a couple of strippers. They were all men, fantastic crowd, and I got paid there. And I like that was the Sunday afternoon was great. Yeah, I had to sleep in the car park. I had no money. And this was like before credit cards, debit cards. I don't know how the fucking hell I managed to get to Blackpool. I was working the route out on this map to try and save petrol. But I'll never forget, I was going past this fucking Adrian's wall and the light came on saying you need petrol. And like Blackpool was like 40, 50 miles away. So I don't know how the fucking hell I got there. But I'd done it, you know, so you've got to be very careful when you're working on these places. Little, you know, things like that can happen.
Madness. So the reason you were talking about that was Kilvo had been, boxing on the same place?
Kilvo had boxed on this Ironopolis club.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have done with him being in there on the night that I was on because maybe he would have got paid.
Fucking hell. So, yeah, you get on stage after that. So back into the room in Carlisle. Kilvo's come off stage. Me and you have gone upstairs. You haven't watched any of the performance, obviously, because you've got to stay out the road. We haven't shown you the video footage. We basically just told you what had happened. So what was your reaction to that?
My reaction when Jimmy came in, and Jimmy's a big lad, and he's a great comedian, and he's a tough lad, and he was an ex-boxer, and kind of like one of the boys, and he doesn't really get rattled. He doesn't get nervous, and he doesn't seem, even if he does a show which he doesn't really enjoy, he's not the kind of guy that'd walk off after a hard crowd. He'll work at them, but nothing seems to faze him. But this night, he looked a bit shaken, you know, and he came in and he went, fucking hell, those fucking bastards kicking off. And I said, what's up, Jim? And he told me they were being very aggressive. They were ready to kick off. He thought it was going to go off, and he actually thought he was going to end up fighting this guy and fighting his mates who were on the table, who were also being pricks and being very, very aggressive. So then I knew then, I was like forewarned is forearmed. I had an idea earlier on that they might kick off. And as I'm getting ready, I'm psyching myself up.
Because I saw you on the video, you going, how long have I got till I get on? How long have I got till I get on? As though like you were dying to get on the stage. And at that point when I'm watching it back, I'm thinking, is that because you're dying to see what the fellas are like? Is that because you know that the longer the break goes on, the more they'll be getting pissed or boisterous? Or why were you dying to get on stage at that point?
Because I'd just spoken to Jimmy Kilvo, and I knew, I sussed out, if he's kind of like upset and angry about the people in the crowd, and Jimmy's not a guy, he's not on a short fuse or anything, you know, he's like composed. I thought if it's upset him, they must be on that table a gang of fucking pricks. Yeah. So I knew that when it went on, they were going to have a go at me and heckle me and try and savage me and all this. So I was psyching myself up, and just like a boxer in training, you know, you want to get into the ring once you think there's going to be a confrontation. And after years and years of experience, I know once they've kicked off, the sooner you confront them, I was going to get on stage and go straight forward and straight for the jugular, start kicking off on them. And I thought, if it goes off, it goes off. If there's trouble, there's trouble. But I'm not going to carry on. I'm not going to start off just doing gags, a few silly gags, a few stories, and then let them start shouting out every now and then and ruin the show. I thought it's going to be, it's fight or flight, kill or be killed. I'm going to go on. I'm going to confront them. If it goes off, it goes off. If there's trouble, there's trouble. But 9 times out of 10, if you go out and you're aggressive with them, you pick on them and you let them know, it's all like psychology. If you let them know you're not going to be bullied, then a lot of the times they'll go quiet and they'll back down. And that's what I was up to.
Nice one. So obviously in the break at that point, just before Frank had gone on, I'd have to go and have the word at the security, who were actually really cool about it. They said, look, you know, James has invited the guy up on stage. You weren't too sure what to do, etc. I said, well, look, let's have one security staff either side of the stage. They actually had to get rid of the guy in the end, eject him from the building. And I think the guy had a bit of trouble with one of the main security guys who was actually a wrestler. Big guy, sorted it out outside anyway. But to anyone who's listening or watching and thinks that we just like fucking get people ejected from the building for heckling, this wasn't heckling. Heckling's fine. This was just people going overboard and upsetting or pissing ticket buyers in the audience off and kind of ruining the show. Yeah.
Well, look, what I always say to people, one fella posted a comment once after we'd done a show at the Longlands Club, funnily enough, in Middlesbrough, and we had a great night, but there was a guy at the front, I think he'd been drinking all day, and he was fucking rotten drunk, and he just kept shouting out all the time, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Now, I'll go toe-to-toe. I invite hecklers. I want people to shout out at me. And Bill is the UK's most feared comedian. And whatever they shout out, I can come back with, as long as it's a bit of fun. If you get someone who's kicking off or just shouting, fuck off, or where's your mother all night, it just ruins the whole night. And it ruins the whole night, not just for me, for the people that are paid to come in and watch a comedy night. They haven't come in to see some fucking dickhead who's been on the piss all day shouting fuck off, who won't even remember the next day that he'd even been out. So these guys that were kicking off in Carlisle, I came out onto stage, you know, started straight away having a go at them, picking on them, and they were still kicking off, still being aggressive. And I think one of them got kicked out, didn't he?
I think one of the lads
was told to leave, and what he'd done.
One of the lads left by choice because he knew that he couldn't get the better of you, and you just kept fucking him off.
That's right. I humiliated one guy, so he fucked off. But there were two other fellas that we told. One of the bouncers said, "Get out to this fella," and they swapped pullovers, didn't they? And came back in. This is an old trick. Any old doorman out there who knows working on clubs, what people used to do when you're on the door of a club, if you throw someone out, or you don't let them in for whatever reason, what they'll do is go around the corner and swap shirts or swap pullovers.
Yeah, everyone's done it after.
With the mates. So they get in the queue. Hopefully they can get in the queue because they look a bit different. They don't get recognised. So why did those, I can't remember, why did those two swap pullovers?
Said that the lads had swapped pullovers because the Kilvo was taking the piss out of his pullover. Basically what had happened was, I'd had away with the doorman. The doorman had gone out away with the lads. They were getting edgy that they were going to get kicked out. They just swapped pullovers for the exact reason why you were saying. So to anyone who has never been to the show before, who doesn't understand the format, Frank will come on and do 30 minutes in the first half, then we'll have a break. So you've kind of got 30 minutes to hold tight and gauge if someone's been a prick, haven't you?
Well, I have. I've got that kind of like that timeline. But obviously that night there's already been a bit of trouble with Jimmy Kilvo, and he kind of smoothed it over in the end, got away with it, but I knew they were out for trouble. And in the end, what happened was this guy was kicking off. I was having to go with him, and it got to the stage where they were being very, very aggressive. They weren't being funny, being very threatening. So I just said to the crowd on the mic, what should we do with this? And everyone started screaming, shouting, get him out. And they were chanting, get him out. So the security came over and they all left. But it was quite funny because as they were leaving, the crowd started singing, going home. So it didn't ruin the show. It kind of complemented the night. Yeah, well, and it became very funny.
That's what I was going to ask you. Once somebody gets thrown out, does that sour the atmosphere for you on stage? Have you got any tricks to get around that? Or, look, probably young comedians watching this.
Where you've got to be careful. I'm okay now. I would hope to God, touch wood, I'm okay now. But I've had a lot of trouble over the years.
Touch wood on that,
with my act. Being a bit contentious, a little bit over the top, walking a tightrope between insulting people and being very funny. You've got to be careful when you're doing two spots, when you're in a club, in case somebody... You see, I done a club, and it was only like 7-8 years ago, this club, a pub in Liverpool, in Huyton, and it was for these local football team, and they were all young lads, middle-aged lads, fellas kind of like my age, whatever, and I was on stage, and I was going down great, getting great laughs. So these two guys came in, and they were like getting on a little bit in the 60s or whatever. One of them had this coat on. He thought he was a gangster. So I said something to him about, not long now, mate. Where are you going? You're on your way going to the cemetery and all. Anyway, this guy just fucking kicked off. So he kicked off. I'll punch your fucking head in. So he flies at me. The manager of the pub jumped up and he kind of like got in between him and he's holding him back and holding his mate back. So he's holding the two of them back. No one in the crowd got up or did anything. They just wanted to kind of like remain neutral. I think they were a bit scared. So then this guy starts, because he couldn't get at me, he started picking up pint glasses off tables and throwing these glasses at me.
He's still on stage?
Yeah, I'm on the floor in this pub with the microphone. He's only a few yards away from me. And the only thing that's stopping him and his mate coming at me is the manager of the pub, a little skinny fella, but he was kind of holding him back.
Yeah.
And because he couldn't get to me, the two of them were throwing these pint glasses at me. They were smashing everywhere, and I was getting out of the way. So in the end, you reach a stage where you go, you've had enough for yourself. You go, fucking hell, I'm not going to get, like, glassed. So the fella who was, like, holding them all back, Robbie, I said to him, Robbie, get out the way. Let them through. I was gone then. My head was gone. I was going to fight them. So in the end, a couple of fellas out the crowd, eventually this big guy jumped up and said, stop it, get out. So this fella's leaving the club, him and his mate. So he goes, listen, mate, I'm coming back. I'm going to be back in 20 minutes and I'm going to pop you. Now, what that means in Liverpool and probably in Manchester, different places, is they're going to shoot you. Now, that's not a thing that you can take lightly. if you know what I mean. It's not a thing they can just laugh off, because some of them, if you've insulted them and they've really took it to heart and they're on the coke and they're beaked up and they think they've been embarrassed, humiliated in front of the local crowd, they will go to extremes and they'll come back, try and stab you, you know, I've been stabbed, or they'll try and shoot you something. So this guy said to me, Frankie, I'm coming back, I'm going to fucking pop you, you're getting popped, 30 minutes, you're dead. And I could see he was fuming. So I'm on stage and I was due to go back on and do another spot. So I'm standing at the bar and I'm having a drink. So the fella said, come on, Frank, come out the back way, I'll get you out to the club, get you into your car and you can go home. And it's a strange thing with me, because I'm not trying to be a hero or to say, you know, I was waiting for the fella to come back, I wasn't scared of what I was going to get shot or whatever. I feel kind of dedicated to the audience. I got a duty to the audience. It's like when I couldn't fly. I can't fly. I haven't flown for 20 years. But when we got a job in Tenerife, once it had been booked and I knew people were waiting to see me, once I knew it was sold out, I got hypnotised, I'd done everything and anything. I got pissed, anything to get on the plane, because I don't like letting the crowd down. That's the thing that I've kind of got with my audience. I don't like letting people down. So I said to the guy in the pub, you know, I said, look, he said, we'll get you out. A few of the lads will walk out with you and get in the car park, go home, because he's coming back. And I went, no, I'm going back on. And I don't know where I got the fucking courage from. I said, I'm going back on, fuck him, let him do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there, 15 minutes, 20 minutes go by. So I'm back on stage. So I'm keeping an eye on the door just to see if this fella's coming back and if he's got a gun. Anyway, I've done about 15, 20 minutes and I'm coming like half an hour. I thought, I'm coming to the end of my spot now. I can finish and I can go home and I'm safe. Just as I'm coming to the end, I see this guy who was throwing the glasses at me comes back in. I went, fucking hell, what's going on here? So he just walked up to the stage and I said, okay, mate. I said, is it just me and you, is it? Should we just have a fight, me and you? Just one-on-one, just me and you. What do you reckon on that, lads? And the lads were all cheering, go on, Frankie, go on, Frankie. Then he all started cheering, Frankie, do him in, Frankie, do him in. Yeah. Do the little cunt in. And the fella stood up and he went, knock fuck out of him. Oh. Anyway, before I kind of like came off stage and met up with him and started fighting with him, this fella got up with the crowd, fucking huge fella, don't know where he'd been all night, and he knew him. And he just walked up to him and he went, Eddie, go home and don't come back. And the fella just left. Fair play.
Fucking mad, that. I've never heard that story before. Good one.
So you're shocked, aren't you?
Yeah, it's crazy, that. Crazy. Wow, you should have come up with that one before.
It's a good story. I mean, I've got hundreds of stories, and the reason I don't tell them, really, because a lot of people wouldn't believe it. They go, oh, that never really happened.
Yeah.
But this is what it was like only a few years ago, working in pubs and clubs around the UK.
So is that why, like, when you're in Carlisle and something like that happens, you're kind of like quite chilled with it and quite used to it?
I'm quite chilled with it. I'm very used to it. I mean, I've been in a lot of clubs where I was in one club in Manchester one night. It was in Wythenshawe, a big council estate, which is a bit of a rough area. And great lads. And I was on this big pub. It was a pub, but it had a big cabaret room, held about 400 people. I was on with a couple of strippers in the 80s. And big mistake I made, really. One of the guys came up to me and he said, Frankie, when you go on stage, will you read this joke out? And the joke was this fella's name, something about babysitting. And he said, oh, the fellas will laugh their heads off. But what it was, two families were in there, two big families. One family had accused the other family of one of the babysitters interfering with this girl or some fucking thing. So the next thing, it all blew up. Like a cowboy film, the whole of the club were fighting. And me and the strippers were screaming. I got them in the dressing room and locked the door. And this fella's knocking on the dressing room door. You know, I'm the secretary of the club, I'm the MC, let me back in. But when it settled down and the main trouble causers left, you can go back on. People think because there's trouble in the club. I've done hundreds of places where there's been a bit of trouble, two fellas are fighting in a club or something goes on, but once it stops, There's no need to abandon ship and like get the police and everybody go home. You can start again. And normally you get a great atmosphere. Believe it or not, this is a little trick of the trade. I wouldn't tell anyone and everyone. I wouldn't tell another comic.
Well, probably comics going to be listening to this.
But I've been in places. I was in a place in Manchester, out in the audience, they were all men, but they were very subdued, they were very quiet, it was very early. And I was going on, and I thought, fucking hell, could do with a bit of trouble in here.
Yeah.
A little bit of trouble, a scuffle or something, to totally break the ice and break the water. Then you get a totally different atmosphere. And good enough, I was about halfway through. This fella came in to this place that I was on in Manchester in Ordenshaw. There was a fella on the stool, sitting on a stool, and he just walked in and fucking punched him on the side of the head. The fella flew off the fucking stool and jumped up and said, do you want it, Billy? And all that. So they're all fighting. So they all went out, and then the next gag I'd done got a huge laugh because there'd been that kind of release.
Tension broken.
Whereas there was a kind of tension of being subdued and cold and reserved. That little bit of trouble there, or quite a big bit of trouble, had probably released a lot of adrenaline in them and got them going and lifted them to a different level where anything that you said, they just laughed at. They were a totally different crowd after the little bit of trouble.
Fucking hell. So let's take people back to Carlisle. First spot, you go down, smash it. I think it was the first spot in which these guys were ejected from the building, left by their own accord.
It was my first spot, not too many.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So then, second spot, you go on, they're not there, absolutely tore the place to pieces again.
Had a great night then, as I say. It's amazing how if people are trying to ruin the night, spoil the night, whatever they do, shouting out, you might just get some pricks who are out just to, like, want to be big or whatever. Once they've left the room, for whatever reason, the rest of the crowd really kind of warmed to you. I think people appreciate the fact that you've stayed you haven't ran away and you've stayed with them, and you can't. And in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're forgotten. They're only dickheads anyway, but the incidents are forgotten. Yeah. And we ended up having a great night, didn't we?
I had a fantastic night, and big thank you to everyone who came to the Carlisle show. The staff there we were talking about were excellent as well. Only little issue, I think the sound quality wasn't that fantastic in the room, but sometimes we don't know what the PA system or audio is going to be like. A lot of venues will say, oh, we've got audio on site, you don't need to hire any in. And when we get there, say we've got 2 hours, and we go, fucking hell, this is not going to work properly. PA
system's like something from Toys R Us, something really amateur, like a child's toy.
But I suppose that's kind of like, in the grand scheme of things, it was a great night, and the video footage afterwards, obviously, a lot of people have resonated with. Why do you think people are liking the vlog from Carlisle so much?
Well, look, it's a kind of, without being too heavy and trying to be scientific or whatever, I think it's all down to the way the people are evolving and environments. Whereas, don't forget, your dad, people are watching it, your dad and your grandparents during like the 50s and the 60s, they were watching things on the television, Morecambe and Wise and, Little Nice. They were hilarious at the time. But to a present day audience and to a working class crowd now, it's not severe enough. It's not kind of like do or die. It's not cutting it. It's not kind of, hasn't got enough aggression for people to laugh. And today's generation, people who go into clubs now, have been brought up, during the miners' strike, they've had bad times, a lot of unemployment. So people are harder now. They've got a jagged edge to them.
Yeah.
People have seen Britain's become very violent. There's a lot of people, when you go out, every city centre, town centre you go to all over the UK, you can really be in trouble if you're on your own, you're walking home, loads of people are getting attacked, knife crime's gone through the roof, shooting's gone through the roof. So we're really living in a kind of very violent society. And that's reflected in people's attitudes where they don't laugh at silly stuff anymore. They want it more hardcore. They want people to be savaged and picked on. They want you to take the crowd almost to where there could be an incident, then pull back, make a joke of it, but you've got to work on, you've got to get their adrenaline going. You've got to fire them up, which you didn't really have to do because people in the 60s, 70s, 80s, to an extent, were just sitting there relaxed. They were kind of like chilled, and they had a totally different attitude. But because of the environment, people have, you know, a lot of kids who are born now, a lot of people in the 30s and 40s have grown up in kind of like one-parent families where the mothers were on drugs. And it's got to be said, this is all over the UK. So the people who are growing up now, the kids who are growing up, they've got a kind of like more jaundiced view of the world. They've got like a more, what you kind of must say, like a sick sense of humour. They laugh at tragedy much more than somebody did in the 70s and 60s and 80s. They laugh, you know, you say there's been a disaster somewhere in the world, people piss themselves, where a few years ago they go, oh, isn't that terrible? Nobody gives a fuck anymore. People just laugh. You can pick on someone, you can call them whatever you want. And at the same time, as this is running, you've got like the media and the PC brigade who are trying to push people back to like, you know, to Victorian times where you've got to be very careful what you say. So you walk in a tightrope, but certainly people's sense of humour the last 30 years have changed beyond recognition.
Yeah, 100%. So, just at the end of that, like the Carlisle show, it ended up being fantastic despite those guys being a pain in the arse. And the crowd there was absolutely spot on. As we said, venue great. James Kilvington was fantastic on stage. We wrapped things up. Remember going home, we went to that snide service station at the end of the night. We were laughing about blouse. Blouse meaning what in Liverpool?
Blouse is a word. I mean, every kind of city in the UK has got its own slang, colloquialisms. You know, when I first started working in Manchester in the 80s, I used to hear fellas saying, oh yeah, you know, Manchester City didn't do very well today. They were bobbins.
Yeah.
I used to go, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Bobbins. And bobbins means like they were rubbish. And another saying that they had that I couldn't get used to, I used to say, I was on stage with these two strippers one night, and one of them was like a bit rough, you know, she wasn't good looking or anything. And I'd got the girls for this club, I'd arranged for the girls to come along with me to this club. So this fella come up to me, I'll never forget, and he went, fucking hell, Frankie, where'd you get those two from? They're fucking hanging.
Yeah, hanging. They always say that in Manchester.
And I went, what the fuck is that? Fucking hanging.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And it's a kind of like a little bit of a different language. And you'd be speaking to Manchester lads on the phone, and instead of saying see you later, they used to go, top man. And I'd carry on talking, thinking they were still there, and they'd gone.
Yeah.
Saying top man is like goodbye.
Yeah.
So it's the same in Newcastle and Birmingham, Wales, Scotland. Everyone's got their own kind of like local terms. And I think a lot of it's kind of spread from London originally, from like Cockney rhyming slang, hasn't it?
Blouse.
So
basically,
blouse,
what we were saying is the service station that we went into, we always try and get some food on the way back because we're always starving after we finished. Yeah. Obviously, when you're in the venue and it's that late, they've stopped serving food. So try and grab something on the way home. Service station's probably your best bet. Blouse isn't a word, and the service station was blouse, that's what we were saying. But blouse isn't a word that like Scousers would use now, is it?
Blouse isn't a familiar word to anyone outside of Merseyside, Liverpool.
I don't reckon young lads use it.
I think about it. I'm not sure. Do you reckon young lads don't use
lads
it?
My age
Maybe it's things like from my generation, blouse. Yeah. But a lot of people...
What does it mean?
It just means worthless, rubbish. You know, you could say something like, I bought a TV...
Yeah.
And when I got it home, there's a fucking crack in it. So I took it back and I bought another one. And you could say to him, well, have you still got the two of them in the house or what? No, you know, no, I took the blouse one back.
Yeah. Like as though it was like just...
As though it was a kind of... You'd been conned into buying it. It was a blouse one. As though it was a fake in a way.
Fake. I think it means a fake.
Fake, yeah. You could say... And another word that they use in Liverpool, you could say something was like, yeah, I bought this fucking suit off a fella in the pub. He said it was Hugo Boss. When I got it home and tried it on, it was Jag.
Yeah, Jag and blag are still used now, but blouse isn't used
So
anymore.
it's strange the words that are used all over the UK, you know, very different, but like in Liverpool. But it's strange, a lot of Liverpool people, what I found out when I first started working out of town, you get up to places like Burnley and Blackburn, and they talk very kind of old-fashioned English, if you know what I mean.
In what way?
In a very descriptive. Now, Liverpool people have got a very, what I would call, limited vocabulary. I can explain it this way. I was in Burnley one night, and one of the lads who was working on the door, he was a doorman, fucking big lad, broken nose and all that. And he went, hello, Frankie, how are you doing? I said, fine. He went, oh, are you well? I said, yeah, okay, I'm great, you know. Oh, you done very well tonight. They're a good crowd for you. I'm sure they all appreciate you being here. And I said, appreciate, we wouldn't say that. Scousers wouldn't say that. So I said, are you married? And he went, well, no, it's a long story, actually, Frankie. It's a bit of, what could I say? I'm going through a very difficult divorce at the moment, Frankie.
Yeah.
So I said, honestly, you're getting divorced. So I said, how come, like, you're splitting up? And he just looked at me and he went, adultery. So I said, what? Because I'd never really heard that word in Liverpool. Maybe in the Bible or something, you know. He went, nothing short, nothing, I'll never forget it. He went, nothing short of adultery. Now, I heard a couple of days later, I was out in Liverpool, and I was talking to these fellas in a pub, and this fella said, I had to give me bird a belt tonight. Which means he hit her. And I said, what for? He said, I think someone's goosing her. It's a totally different language.
Yeah.
It means the same thing. That the wife was carrying on, or his girlfriend was carrying on.
For everyone who doesn't know is having sex.
Having sex, goosing, is having sex. So I think someone was goosing me bird. But anyone outside Liverpool wouldn't really understand that. You know, so it's strange the way in different cities, different forms of like localised language have developed, and it's quite funny, really. I'd say the Cockneys are quite similar to Liverpool with the way they speak.
Yeah.
And but the Irish lads have got their own vocabulary. As you say, Burnley, Blackburn, it's very kind of old-fashioned English. You know, it's like I broke down in Bury one night in my car.
Yeah.
I was with a mate of mine, Tommy McNally. The car broke down, so we got the AA out. So the AA fella came out. And he came out and he had his uniform on. He got out of the back of the van and he walked up to me, had a hat on. And he said, do you have your membership card, sir? So I said, yeah, you know, give him the card. He said, I'll examine the vehicle. So he got underneath the car with this big light and he came out. He went, I think your starter motor, your bushes may be worn, sir. That's why it's not starting. What I'll do, he said, I'll try to knock it and try to get it going. We might be able to give it a little bit of a jerk, a little bit of a jump start too. So, great. So we got the car going. I drove home and I had to sign this form to say, you know, so it was very, very official. The way he spoke, very professional. He didn't kind of like treat me as though I was a friend of his or whatever.
Yeah.
He was very kind of distant. But he'd done the job. That was great. So I got home. Now there's the contrast. 3 days later, I never bothered getting the car fixed. The car stopped again. So I phoned up the AA in Liverpool. So then, nearly an hour later, this van pulls up. And the van pulled up on the other side of the street, about 10 yards down the road. And this fella, with no uniform on, just a shirt, was sitting there smoking and just looking at me like that with one eye. And just looking at me. And he never got out. And in the end, I went over and knocked on his window and said, hey, mate, you the AA? And he went, yeah. He said, hang on a minute. He got out of the car, out of his van, walked over to my car, and I said, do you want to see my membership card? He went, no, you're all right. I said, okay. So then he got under the car, and he had a look. Then I'll never forget, he put his head out from under the car and he just looked at me and he went, it's fucked. So I said, what? Your starter motor's fucked. I said, okay. So then he didn't say anything. He walked to the back of the van and he got this hammer. I said, what are you going to do, mate? He said, I'm going to twat it. Then he got under the car, hit the starter motor, got the car going again. The car started. He just walked away, got in the car and fucked off. That's the difference.
Fair play, fair play. So, yeah, just circling back to wrap this up of the Carlisle show itself. We had it back. It was 3 days before my birthday. So a big thanks to everyone who said happy birthday to me in the comments, even though it was a long time ago. And since then, you've watched the video, what, 4 times?
I've watched it like as soon as it came out, I watched it. Then I watched it again. Then an hour later, I watched it again. Then I watched it like, I think it was 20 minutes of it this morning. And then my mate Dave, rang or whatever. So I had to go out. So I'll watch it again today.
So if anyone hasn't watched it before, tell them to get on it. What do you reckon?
It's a fantastic video. Now that you know the backstory to it, about what went on behind the scenes, when you watch what goes on stage, you'll appreciate the full story, 360 degrees, what went on that night. And it's brilliant. You've got to watch it.
Nice one. So you've been looking at some of the comments as well, haven't you?
There's been some great comments. People are really buzzing off it. Like, the views have gone through the roof. We've had 5,000 people already. And as I say, my kind of theory about it is what I've just said earlier on. People's sense of humour have changed, and people want to be kind of like, not scared, but entertained by things that might end up going like tits up. There might be a bit of trouble. There might be, oh, what's happening here? This fella's running here, he's running there. You've got to really, it's like, I always think of an audience as a small child.
Yeah.
And if you think of like someone from the 70s and 80s as a 5-year-old kid sitting in a pram and very easy and in a good mood, a lovely mood, and very easily entertained, you've only got to go, and go like that with a rattle, and they're laughing at nothing. What a 2020 crowd is like, working class crowd to come and see me, what they're like is a naughty fucking kid who was sitting there, who smashed all the fucking toys, and you've got to go up to them, you've got to be a little bit angry with the kid to get its attention, then you've got to be hands-on all the time, entertaining them all the time to keep their attention. They've got a very kind of like short attention span. So you've got to be saying, look at this, oh, look at it, to keep them going. Yeah. They've got to be kind of entertained all the time. They're not like a crowd from 20 years ago. They've evolved, but they're still a great crowd, and you can still have fantastic nights.
Nice one. So look, hope you've all enjoyed this. If you haven't watched the Carlisle vlog before, if you haven't watched it already, go check it out. It's on YouTube now. Should be on our Facebook page as well by the time we upload this podcast. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the backstory of this. Obviously, big thanks to everyone who's helped us out in terms of buying the podcast equipment. Half of it paid by you guys so far, so big thank you, and we really appreciate it. It means we can get a lot more content out. It means that, you know, we can share stories like this where we wouldn't usually be able to. And it also stops you from being bored, doesn't it, Frank?
I love doing it. Stops me from being bored. Obviously, Will's my son. It's great to be with him and that. We're both doing it, you know, a great team. But also, like, even Will, I was telling a story. I didn't really think anything of it before about the fella throwing pint glasses at me. And I think Will was a bit shocked. So I've had a kind of life where I've just taken it for granted what's happened to me. But some people are shocked about what's gone on, you know. So it's strange. It's strange to me when I see people go, fuck, you know, did that really happen? Did you really get stabbed? Did this really happen? Did that really happen? I go, yeah, you know, it happened.
Nice one. So do us a favour. Give it a thumb up on this video, or, you know, send us a little comment or a rating on iTunes or Spotify or whatever you're watching it on, listening to it on. We've really enjoyed doing this for you, and there's going to be loads of podcasts coming, at least one a week. We're going to pick a specific time when that will be released every week, and I'll let you know in due course about that. All I can say is thank you for listening. Carlisle, it was a fantastic show despite all of the hiccups that we were talking about. Venue, excellent. Security were good, even though, you know, we said about the grey area and there being some kind of like, you know, how can I put it? It was not the easiest night's work for them, put it that way. And yeah, the crowd were fantastic. So big thanks to everyone who's been watching. Big thanks to everyone who's been listening. Frank, have you got anything to say before we sign out?
Thanks to Will. And Will's getting a big following now. People are kind of like, it used to just be the birds who were after him, but now it's kind of like,
You've been reading the comments too much, haven't you?
Funny, he's dead funny, he's a legend, he's great, he's getting a big name for himself, which is fantastic. And so is Jimmy Kilbo. So we're all rowing together. We're all trying to give people what we think that they want. Yeah. That's the important thing. And great crowds all over the UK. It's fantastic. Bringing back genuine comedy to people. It's brilliant. And thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Nice one. Before we do go, you can go and get your Frankie Allen tickets. We've got 19 shows, I think, on sale now for when the lockdown releases. They're all on sale at frankieallen.co.uk. Just click the tour button on there. You can check them all out on Facebook. The majority of them are on Skiddle too, but there is a few that are floating about that aren't on there. So you can check them all out at frankieallen.co.uk/new-events, or just click the tour link. They're all coming up. Drive-in show, 24th of July.
To the drive-in show in Skipton on the 24th of July, North Yorkshire. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fantastic night.
And yeah, so that's definitely occurring. And look, I hope you're all keeping well during the lockdown. We've really enjoyed doing this for you. Keep yourself safe, and hopefully we'll see you at a show soon.
Take care, all the very best.
Nice one, people.